Welcome everybody along today. I'm just going to give an overview in terms of the Community Mental Health and Wellbeing Fund and how we can support you and how you can, some of the information regarding what we're looking for in terms of applications. So to give you a wee bit of background to the fund is part of £50 million which has been allocated to support mental health and wellbeing in communities across Scotland. The money has came from the Scottish Government, and the fund has been administered throughout Scotland using a collaborative approach between the 32 third sector interfaces, of which VASLan is one. Throughout Scotland, so each of the local third sector interfaces and each of the local 32 authorities in Scotland have had an allocation of this fund, and they're all doing it slightly different. Some of them have got deadlines, some of them don't. Some of them obviously have more money per head of population than other areas. So if there's any organisations here that are maybe pan-Lanarkshire, or you do work in Glasgow, for example, then there will be a separate fund available within those areas to cover any of the activities that you're trying to do there. We're doing it as a partnership and a collaborative approach. So in terms of our partnership, we have colleagues from the Integrated Joint Boards and representatives from the Council and other specialist mental health charities and third sector organisations going forward. So what is it we're sort of looking at in terms of the fund and the priorities that we have sort of going forward? We are looking for projects which tackle suicide prevention, social isolation and loneliness, and from sort of an early intervention point of view. We're looking to address the mental health inequalities that have been exacerbated. We all know, obviously, throughout the pandemic, there has been a greater impact on the mental health of the communities and of the groups locally that we work with. In terms of the at-risk, we're maybe looking at people who are maybe particularly shielding throughout the pandemic, and perhaps people that maybe just not got the confidence at the moment to be getting out and interacting within communities sort of going forward. They're maybe just a wee bit reluctant to get back out there. We're looking to support small grassroots organisations, community groups and community-led organisations to deliver services. So we're looking at things coming very much from the bottom down. We want the communities to be involved. We want the people that you're working with to have had a say in the project that you're looking to take on and deliver. We want to make sure that it is sort of a holistic approach and they are having that. We want to provide opportunities for people to connect with each other and build trusted relationships and revitalise within the communities. So we're wanting people to get back in and connecting with people and build these relationships up that were there, obviously, but maybe people, like I said, are a little bit reluctant to get out there. So we're looking for opportunities and projects which will support that. And we're looking for creative ways locally. We know that there was a lot of work done throughout the pandemic where groups worked together to achieve greater aspects, and we'll talk about that a wee bit more when I go into what is available, particularly in terms of the partnership applications. So you want me to get to the good bit, I know you do. So what is available in terms of the funds, particularly in South Lanarkshire? Now, we have been allocated for this financial year £888,000 to be distributed to third sector organisations within South Lanarkshire. And that is for this financial year, so it has to be allocated before the 1st of April. We have already allocated, as of this morning, £333,565 and so many pence. So it has been the fund has been open since November, but we are still accepting new applications. So if you can do your maths, you can see we've got just over £500,000 still to be allocated before the start of April. So what I'm saying is we are getting a lot of applications in at the moment. We currently have 25 in the process of being allocated, being assessed. Through ourselves, we've got them in, and we're just doing sort of due diligence around that. So what I will say is we are doing it in terms of a rolling programme, which I'll come on to in a wee bit later. But the sooner you get an application in, the sooner it can be assessed, and the sooner we can get word back to you on whether you have been successful or not going forward. So what is available from that? So we have 3 grants which are available to community organisations within South Lanarkshire. We have small grants, which is up to £5,000. The main grant is between 5 and 10, and a partnership application is between 10 and 50,000. Now, for partnership applications, they have to be led by a third sector organisation, and it would be a range of organisations and partners that you have been working with and you have a good relationship with to deliver a project which tackles the outcomes of the fund and sort of going through that. Obviously, depending on the amount of money that you're asking for, then in terms of the information that we would be looking for in any applications would be proportionate to it. So obviously, if you're looking for the 50,000, we will be looking for a lot more information about the client group that you're working with, your sustainability of the project, sort of post-investment, and your outcomes from that. We would be looking at a lot more into that than we would be, say, if you were going for a couple of £100 in terms of the small application fund. Although we have to allocate the funds this financial year, projects can last up to 2 years from the date of the grant offer. So you have 2 years for delivery from that. What I will also say is in terms of that, because the money has to be allocated this financial year, it's not a drawdown process. You will get a lump sum if you are successful in the winner just into your bank account. So who can apply for the fund? Now, this fund is only open to VASLan members, which I'll come on to. I'll do my sales pitch after this. So the ambition of the fund is support initiatives to promote mental health and wellbeing at a small grassroots community level, and clinical interventions will not be funded. Now, this is something that's came direct from the Scottish Government in terms of the clinical interventions. So we will not fund CBT or formal counselling services going forward. We're looking at it from a more holistic approach, where it's perhaps self-help, well-being, and coming from the grassroots, small-scale, community-led, rather than sort of formal or clinical interventions around mental health and well-being. We will fund the likes of mindfulness or well-being courses like that, but if there is a clinical intervention as part of that, then unfortunately we can't fund it at this time. It should be accessible to all groups, no matter how small and inexperienced you are. So if you've never put in an application before, don't be put off. This is sort of the whole idea of the fund, is to support small scale groups, particularly maybe ones that haven't or don't traditionally put in applications to funds. We can support new and existing groups for projects, but we will only support projects that focus on adults 16 plus. Now, I know there's maybe a couple of organisations here that concentrate on perhaps youth work services or children's services. What we will say is we will fund projects that have a family focus, but it has to be, the focus has to be on the adults as part of that family. We'll not turn away the kids, but in terms of the reporting mechanism and the information that we want, we would be looking to see what the support is around the interventions with the adults. So one of the projects that we have had in would be around supporting new mothers particularly because of sort of during the lockdown, obviously all the support groups were happening online in terms of the sort of traditional mothers and toddlers or new mothers groups. And obviously that's had an impact on some of their mental health going forward. So we'll be supporting that group in terms of the support that the mothers will get, but obviously the children are going to be part of that as well. You don't have to have a mental health or wellbeing focus within your organisation. So we will take applications from any group, any community group going forward, but the application does have to clearly benefit and show the benefits of the mental health within your community and how your project will benefit that sort of in the long term. And again, we won't look at the clinical aspect, we're looking at it as a more community level holistic approach going forward. So the first note that we said is that the fund is only open to VASLan members. So you can take out membership of VASLan. It's free of charge to all organisations, and not only does it give you access to this fund, it gives you also access to a number of different services which you can get from VASLan. There is information on the website. All you really need to do is send an email with your organisation and the contact details and who the best contact for membership would be. So membership of VASLan does give you increased awareness of the services that we can promote to potential benefactors. So you can, if you have any services or you have any events coming on, we can use sort of our networks to promote that on your behalf. We are developing a members only community shared space, which will give you a chance for people to discuss and interact and engage with other like-minded organisations and hopefully build partnerships. We'll give you access to the VASLan managed funds, this one and any other managed funds that we get along. It also gives you access to the third sector chief officers group membership, which is a consortium of larger organisations that are coming together to look at partnerships and how the third sector can be involved and interact at a strategic level. And it also gives you the ability to vote and take on membership at VASLan member meetings and our AGM. And if you wish, take out a space on our board of directors if you wish to volunteer. So who can apply for the fund? We will take applications from any sort of not-for-profit organisation going forward. So that can be charities, SKIOs, unincorporated organisations, community limited by guarantees, trusts, KICs, providing they've got an asset lock, co-ops or community benefit societies, community councils, who I know could be seen as being unincorporated associations, but was just putting that in there clearly to say that community councils can apply, and voluntary led partnerships. Now, I said in the partnership applications, in terms of that, we would be looking for a voluntary organisation to lead that partnership going forward. You can only lead on one partnership bid to the fund, but you can be involved in innumerable partnerships and networks sort of going forward. So you can only hold the funds for one partnership bid, but you can be involved in numerous partnerships. So what sort of things does the fund cover? So we will fund the likes of equipment, one-off events, if you're looking to have an event where you want to promote the stuff that you are doing. What we will say is we want to see it as an ongoing, so what would be the outcomes of having that one-off event. We don't want to just have an event for the sake of having an event. There has to be a purpose to it, and there has to be sort of a follow-on in terms of maybe getting people into your core services or other services that you're looking to do sort of as part of that. Obviously, if you're having that, then we will cover sort of hall hires of community space. If you're looking at sort of small capital projects, we will fund up to £10,000 for land or building projects. We've had a couple that have came in that have been around sort of community growing. So obviously there's been sort of some groundwork that's needed to be done around that. So we will sort of look at that favourably. In terms of staffing costs, yes, we will fund staff costs. But please note that this is a 2-year fund, so therefore we would be looking at it to be either a one-off project or for a fixed term going forward. Training costs for staff or volunteers going forward, or your committee. Transport, if that is needed. Utility and running costs, we will not necessarily cover core costs, but if there is an addition to what you are doing, and there is obviously overheads in terms of that with the running. So you may have a group that runs once a week, but through this fund you maybe want to increase it to 2 or 3 times a week, and then obviously there would be additional utilities and running costs as part of that. Then we can look into that, and that's something that we could fund. Volunteers' expenses, yes, absolutely. If there's any expenses needed to run the activity from a volunteer point of view, then we will look favourably on that. And in terms of sort of the group gathering and the climate that we are, anything that will help people sort of stay safe in terms of PPE or COVID sort of guidelines that you need to keep in place. In terms of the things that we won't cover, we'll not cover any contingency or loan funds or any endowments from that. Energy generated from a feed-in tariff payment, political or religious campaigning, profit-making or fundraising activities, statutory activities, overseas travel, alcohol, and anything that you can reclaim the VAT on. Sort of going forward, that's sort of what you would normally expect from any sort of fund. So I know that I've gone on quite a bit from it, but in terms of the applications, they can be downloaded from the VASLan website, and I'll give you the link to the application process at the end of this presentation. What I will say is there is 2 application forms. So there's one for a small grant and there's one for the main grant and the partnership application. Please ensure that you are filling out the right application, because we look for more information in terms of that for the larger bids than we do from the small bids, because we will be looking for an exit strategy, and it just means it's a bit of work for us if we have to go back to you and say, can you give us that information sort of going forward. You've got 2 years from the date of the funding agreement if you are successful to deliver the project, and we'll be looking at it in terms of a light touch evaluation every 6 months from that. It will be very light touch but it will be proportionate in terms of the information that we'll be looking for, and in terms of the amount of funding that you are getting through this process. We will not be looking for sort of war and peace stuff and lots of information from it, because we know that you are busy people and so are we in terms of that. So we'll be looking to see what it is you said you were going to do as part of the application, whether you've done that, who you worked with, and what was the benefit and what was the outcome of that. And we'll keep it as woolly and as open as that. We know that evaluation can sometimes scare and put people off of that, putting in an application. We don't want that for many of you, and we are obviously here to support you through that. There is information in the guidance notes that gives you sort of links to Evaluation Support Scotland to give you a lot of different ways to evaluate processes as well. And we maybe be looking at a wee bit more from a sort of creative side, so a lot of case studies, a lot of telling your story. We don't want sort of the facts and figures and the boring stuff going forward, basically, because we're now sitting at nearly 90 applications either been put in or have been successful, and I don't want to be sitting down and reading 90 evaluations that are all the same, to be perfectly honest. Don't worry about sort of what the Scottish Government will be looking for, because that's our concern, and if there's any additional information then we can go to you on that. I wanted to give you sort of just a wee bit of a background and some ideas of sort of some of the projects that have already been funded going forward, and this will maybe give you some ideas in terms of what you have within your own organisation. So creative walking groups. This is sort of what I call them walking group plus, where there was sort of a purpose rather than just going out and doing the walks outside. And maybe around sort of taking photographs or sketching or doing some poetry. So taking a wee bit of time just to enjoy the outdoors and enjoy the walks that you're going on. Perhaps maybe looking at the historic aspect of it. So where maybe the Path for All walking groups are a bit more structured in terms of they are health walks, these ones have a wee bit more to them. Men's Sheds, we all know sort of what a men's shed is and the good work that they've been doing. So a lot of the projects that they've been doing, and it's sort of just to get that re-engage with the guys that were there, and also to promote and to include people that maybe never came to the men's sheds in the past. Wellbeing cafes, these are exactly what they sort of say in the tin. Is an opportunity for people to just gather one day a week, to have a conversation, to get talking, basically. But there's maybe activities involved in that. The wellbeing cafes that we've funded have looked at sort of just getting jigsaw puzzles and sort of adult colouring books and crosswords, so that they've got activities to have there as well. Talking newspaper recording equipment, that was quite specific in terms of that, but obviously because of sort of the site problems that group have, then they do feel isolated within the community, and by having the recording equipment and new recording equipment, then they can still access the newspapers and the information that's being put out there. Lunch clubs, again, that's something that bringing people together, making sure that their mental health and also their sort of nutrition is up to date, but it's more about the bringing people together rather than sort of the food aspect of the lunch clubs. Shopping buses, so this is an opportunity for people to go out on the bus to different shopping centres and sort of have that where they may be a bit reluctant to go onto public transport if it's coming from a group that they know they may be a bit looking for a bit. We know that sports obviously has a great impact on people's mental health and well-being going forward, so we have looked at sports in terms of that. Equestrian therapies, horses, again, there's a lot of aspects around that that we can show the benefits from that. Showing groups, telephone befriending, gentle movement classes. So we know because of lockdown, people haven't been out, they maybe not been moving, their mobility has reduced sort of through that. So the gentle movement can be sort of like the armchair aerobics aspects going forward. So that will give you some sort of idea in terms of the sort of projects that we have funded, and that might spark a couple of ideas within your own organisation in terms of going forward. Now, I know I've rabbited on quite a lot in terms of that and gone through. What I will do is I'll stop sharing so that if MD shows a hand, then I will hopefully be able to see it. What I can ask is if MD does have a question, can you either just use the reaction button down at the bottom, or use the chat function and we can sort of get to it. It's this, we're sitting on nearly 40 people at the moment, so and I've got nobody here to help me sort of look. So Patricia, I think you're the first one on hand.
Yeah, hi. Thanks very much, Peter, for that run through of the fund. That was very helpful. Thank you very much. A couple of things. We're obviously looking at, we have already got a walking group that we're developing, encouraging older people to come back out of their houses and trying to make it easier in terms of way markers so they can be encouraged to get out with their families and do the same walk. So that's one project. We're also looking at lunch clubs as well, having regular lunch clubs for the over 60s. So I was wondering as well if we could put an application in that would combine both those projects.
You can, or one of the ways that we're doing it is that each organisation can apply for the 3 levels. So you can have a small, medium and lead on a partnership application at any one time. So particularly if the walking group maybe wasn't going to fit into the £5,000 to £10,000, you could put in a small application, and then for the lunch club, maybe put in sort of the main grant for that, because I would assume that would probably have more overheads as part of that. You can put in the one application if you feel, but it may be just easier in terms of managing the grant to put in a small and a medium going forward.
Okay, that's lovely. Thank you very much for that.
Okay. Margaret?
Hi Peter, that was great. Thank you. That was really comprehensive. Peter, one of the groups I represent is a church, and I wanted to ask you about the religious promotion. As a church, we have groups like dementia groups and befriending groups who have nothing to do with the religious aspect of it, but we work extensively with them. We also have a church choir, which quite unusually is mainly not our religion, and we do a lot of singing, which we quite enjoy. We're more a town choir, to be honest. Two levels of question. Can we be an umbrella organisation to help more than one group who use our facilities? Is there a way of linking it up that, you know, if we have very, very different groups that we're involved with and we would like to help more than one of them, or should they basically approach you in their own right?
We would prefer it if they approached us in their own right, if they do have their own sort of governing document in their own bank account and they are set up as an individual organisation. We would prefer it coming from them. But if you have small, particularly very informal groups that are coming that maybe don't have governance structure, then we would support you to support them. Going forward and sort of look at as an anchor organisation.
Yeah, I'm very willing to help them with things like the grant applications, but you know, they perhaps approach you as individual groups.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
There wouldn't be a problem with that.
You.
Right.
Hi, Peter.
Yeah.
It's Maureen Clark from the Busy Bees in Rutherglen.
Hi, Maureen. Yeah.
Hi. I'd like to ask about the volunteer expenses. We have a lady that comes and she volunteers to help us with quilting, sewing, all sorts of things. Repairing machines. She stays in Dumbarton, so she has to travel through on the train, and she spends 3 hours with us every Friday. Would she be able to get any expenses?
Yes, but what I would probably do is put her in as a sort of tutor cost rather than volunteers' expenses, just because obviously there would probably be a lot more to that in terms of high out-of-pocket expenses. In terms of sort of the volunteer expenses, we would be looking what support you were giving to people within South Lanarkshire, and if she's coming in from Dumbarton, then you probably want to look at that more as a tutor cost.
Thanks very much. That's fine.
Okay. I'm just going to Jean, I can see you waiting, but I've just seen there's a couple of things came through in the chat. Yes, I'll be sharing the presentation
Just leave it.
with you all.
Let's keep off because we're finished.
Just to after this, I'll send it on to everybody that has registered from this, along with links to the guidance notes and the applications. This is also getting recorded, so parts of it will be going up onto our YouTube channel and through our social media. How long does this process take? We are looking to have it in terms of a 4-week sort of turnaround from application being received to when you will be notified of that. Because we're doing a lot of it in-house, we can do that sort of fast turnaround, and hopefully once it is successful, the money can be into your account within just a couple of days. Obviously, because we are now going in to a stage of it's sort of coming to the end of the process, we are getting a lot more applications, so it may be more towards the 4 weeks. If we can do it faster, then we will, but we're only human, basically. And what I will say is, the sooner you get an application in, the sooner it can be processed. What we're trying to avoid is having sort of a tsunami towards the start of March. where we're going to have a lot of applications coming in, and it's only myself and a couple of other of the development officers that are going down through that. So we don't want to have to push the process. It is an ongoing application process that we have one of the assessment panels every 2 weeks, so it alternates between the main and partnership grants and the small application. So we had a small grant panel on Monday, so next Friday we'll have the main and partnership application, and then sort of the other way around from that. We've not put a closing date on as yet, other than we've said the 7th of March is the final date that we will accept applications. But like I said, that is an ongoing process going forward, just because we know that there's going to be a lot of applications towards the end. And we need a bit of time to process that, and in terms of getting our reports back to the Scottish Government. So we would ask you to get it in before that, but as an ongoing process in terms of if you miss one application panel, then it will go through to the next one, just in terms of that. David, you're asking whether it would cover costs such as Zoom. We would have to look at what the costs were going to be involved in that. You may want to send me a wee email in terms of what you have in mind sort of going forward. Yeah, and just on that, if there's anybody that has any wants to contact me, I know this is sort of an open forum. If you've got a project in mind and you don't want to share it with people, then yeah, I'll give you my email address later, just going forward from that. So sorry about that. Jean, can I invite you in?
Hi, Pierre. Thanks for that information. It was really good. My problem is, as you know, is we have developed a heat pad for the problem with fuel poverty at the moment, especially in our elderly suffering with the cold. My way is how to get this product to the right people. We can run the heat pad all day, every day for a month for 50 pence. That's all it will cost them for the full month to run this, which will heat their chair, keep them warm, and also give them the far infrared benefit of help with pain relief. We work with Dr. Adrian Smales from Napier at the moment. And obviously, you know, I don't want to just do like my wee area and say, oh, this is half a dozen people here. I would have liked to get it through the community so that each person in each area where they are suffering with this can get some help to help with their fuel. So it's just, what would be the best way for me to go forward with an application? Would it be, at the moment we've used some of the local communities, like Glasgow Disability and some of the other ones who have benefited from the product.
Yeah, I would probably say that's the best way to go about it as well. It may be about partnering up with organisations within the local area that you know, that you have been working with in the past, to promote that in your project, your product, in terms of how that has supported them going forward.
Yeah, we partner with Alzheimer's Scotland at the moment, and right. Green Hills Charity, obviously. But it's just how to get the local ones. Is there a way I could get to reach the people in the local communities that need this product?
Yeah, one of the places to maybe look is on our website. We've got the locator tool, which you would be able to have a look at and sort of search, and that will give you a list of particular groups for the elderly that are working locally, and you can then get has contact numbers for them so they can get in contact with you.
Peter, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's also the Health and Social Care Forum. That I don't know that lady, I'm sorry, but there's a Health and Social Care Forum that meets tomorrow. That I'll put in the chat box the information to contact Anne-Marie Neal at Community Links, who could probably assist with that.
Yeah. That's fantastic, thank you.
Sorry, Jean, as well. There's also Seniors Together.
who are kind of a bit of an umbrella organisation as well, and I'm part of that as well. And this is the first I've heard of it. They just had a meeting this morning. I could give you contact details through Peter if you like.
Yeah, that would be great. I have contacted most of these people, as you said, but this one we've just developed, you know, mainly for fuel poverty. So yeah, this is why I'm aiming it at to stop the suffering, and where it's going to get 10 times worse. Yeah. But what I don't know, Peter, is do I apply to get this to them, or do they have to apply individually?
They would probably have to apply individually, and then bring you in as a contractor, for want of a better phrase, to deliver that.
You can see the problem I've always had with the product's amazing, but when we actually manufacture, it's made here in Scotland. It's intrinsically safe, can't overheat, can't burn. It's all been proven with Dr. Adrian Smales. So it's just trying to get contact with the people that need it most.
Yeah.
Have you tried Care and Repair?
Care and Repair,
they're based in Lanarkshire. They're actually involved with the alarm setup. They've been given funding to put in the alarms. It was delayed for a year. Well, they've been given that funding to do that. So they work with the elderly. You've got to be over 50 or registered disabled in order to qualify. So Care and Repair, it's like the guy who heads it up is a guy called Jamie Burgess.
Yeah. Jamie Burgess also attends the fuel poverty subgroup, Jean, and I've just put the email address there for kenny.mackey@southlanarkshire.gov.uk. He runs the fuel poverty subgroup, and Jamie attends that. So there's probably a lot of people you could get through probably coming along a fuel poverty subgroup. And also that Health and Social Care Forum, which is Anne-Marie Neal, which I'll try and type her email into the chat box as well. I don't seem to be doing very well at completing my messages, so sorry. But Kenny.Mackey would certainly get you to the fuel poverty subgroup. Brilliant. And that would probably be a good place to speak about that. Sorry, Peter.
No, you're fine. It's great that we can get networking going like that. But can I just move on if that's okay? Anne and then Tommy.
Me, you want?
Well, I think Anne was first. If I can just ask.
Right. It's actually to just say to Jean, can we send details of our club to her, because it's all elderly, it's in our club, and this is the first we've heard of it.
Yeah, brilliant. Anybody?
I'd like to send you some stuff as well. I work for a housing association in East Kilbride, so we
come along and
could you give me the name of your group?
Jean, what I'll do Jean, what I'll do, if that's okay, I'll just send your contact to everybody that's on here, and then if anybody wants to get in contact just as we move on. Sorry, Anne Walker.
That's lovely. Thanks very much.
Anne Walker, Look listeners.
Okay. Hi, thank you, Peter. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Right. Look listeners were set up in 2010 following an audit in the town. But the audit was actually created by the church in Carluke. But what would be important to say is that during our listening service, we don't proselytise, evangelise or whatever. However, the problem that I have is that the accounts that we have are very, very low key. The only time we ever look for money is for training listeners, which costs about £1,000 per listener. But all our funding has been ring-fenced within the accounts of one of the local churches. So how could we actually tick the box of showing our accounts?
If the funding has been, or your funding has been ring-fenced within the accounts of the church, you may be able to just give us sort of a copy of that and sort of see what the ins and outs have been sort of as that cost centre throughout the church. What we would prefer is if you had your own bank account, your own governance.
Yeah. We do have our own governance. We do have our own governance group, which is made up of 7 people from the community, from the town.
Yeah.
But we don't have our own bank account. So maybe that's something we should think about doing for the future. But with that,
I wouldn't stop you putting in an application. What we would then have to do is look at it in terms of if the money was going into the church account, then we would have to have a copy of the church's accounts going forward.
Right,
We've put an upper limit in terms of income for it being for the fund being £1 million last financial year. So I think you're still within that group, so I don't see that as being a problem. And if you can explain within the application that it is a group of the church, then we will fund the church to do sort of more generic work that doesn't promote the religion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, right, Tommy.
My name's Tommy from Central VASLan Community Gardens. We're a very new group in comparison to the rest. We're only formed in the past number of weeks.
Right. Can I just ask everybody to just go on mute again? I'm finding it hard to hear Tommy, unfortunately. Thanks. Tommy, I'm just going to have to ask you to unmute. After saying that, can you unmute so I can hear you?
Unmute. There we go.
About that. Right, thank you.
So, we've been vandalised already, etc., and we've all got stories like this. But the one that we have been approached by a couple of other groups is the fact that they would like a couple of welfare gardens made similar to what we are going to be doing once we get the vandalism sorted out and what have you. Would it be relevant to place that into our application? Because we will need to maybe get them some tools, or get us some tools, or some wood, or anything like that would go to running a welfare garden, or even some chairs or something like that.
Yeah, we would want to see sort of what other groups you are being involved in and how you are supporting them sort of going forward. Where was it you said that you're based? VASLan. It might also be worth contacting the Green Health Network. I don't know if you're involved in that, and I know that Grow 73 are quite active out there as well. So you may want to.
I know all of them, but I'm talking specifically about the application. Is it okay for us to put in that we will be needing some, because I'll be doing workshops as well as other, there's only 4 of us that do Central Gardens. And we'll be doing workshops for them, not just a case of they'll be looking to grow flowers and different other things, and get a bit of workshops under their belt. So that would involve costs as well for us to put on. So
yeah, I mean, if you were running those workshops for the other organisations, yes, absolutely put that in terms of the costs and the people that you would be working with. It's just making sure that the people that you are working with do fit into to the aims and objectives of this fund.
Yeah, I'm a member of a couple of we'll call it LAMH and GAMH, and Scottish Association for Mental Health, and the Mental Health Network as well. Have been for quite a number of years. Is it relevant to put any of that information in, that's one of the things that we are definitely going to be looking at, and particularly loneliness within older people as well?
Yeah, I mean, if that's what's going to be sort of the process and what you're going to focus on in terms of the application, then yeah, put that in. And the fact that you have got sort of good relationships with the likes of LAMH and SAMH, then yeah, put that into your application along with that.
Okay, that's all. Thanks very much.
Okay. Yeah, Sheila.
Well, thank you very much, Peter. This is really very good discussion we had. And our group, Milan International Social Club and Lunch Club, is very small. It's well from all diverse, community people, they join it. And we're based in Burnbank Centre in Hamilton. But for the last 2 years, really, we haven't done anything at all. And so my question is this fund is for 2 years, you said. After 2 years, what will happen then?
At the moment, we're not quite sure. we've only been given the allocation for this financial year. There's hope that the Scottish Government will continue it. So next year there'll be another, hopefully, another tranche of funding that will be putting out there. We've not had that confirmed from the Scottish Government yet. And until I've got it in black and white and I've got it right in writing, I'm not telling any groups to sort of don't count your chickens and don't rely on anything else coming through. So at the moment, this is only 4 projects that will run for 2 years. What comes after that, we don't know. If you're looking at it from your own point of view in your own organisation, then we will be looking for what your plans would be to continue this project going forward. So that may be you'll fundraise throughout yourself and you'll just make this project a core to your own organisation, or you may want to contact other funders or other partners to keep that going. But at the moment, the funding's only this year. It's looking very likely that we will get something, but I've not had anything in writing yet. Until I get that, I'm not telling you that it's going to be there.
That's helpful. Thank you. Yeah, that's good actually. Because sometimes small projects for 1 year or 2 years, then they completely stop. And this, people are not very happy to do that. So we should have something for continuity, So thank you very much for your all these details. And I will go back to my committee and then definitely we'll send our form. At least 2 years will be helpful for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Paul
Monday.
Oh, hello there. Yes, East Kilbride Men's Shed will be opening very soon in a new place, and we're getting a 1-year lease to start with, which is going to continue on to a CAT application for community asset transfer. We haven't buy the place. But to get the lease, we need to spend some money on legal costs. It's not a great deal. It's probably about £700 perhaps maximum. Could that be included within an application?
I would probably say no, because we couldn't see the direct benefit that would have on the people that we want to address through this fund.
Yeah.
So I would find it very unlikely.
Got a fair bit of equipment to buy, so we can.
Yeah, equipment would be fine. Just in terms of the legal costs, we don't know what that we can't see what the impact would be on the client group that you would be working with as part of that.
Yeah, it's a bit on the periphery.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Peter.
Colin.
Hi, Peter. One of the questions we've got is being part of Spike Aware UK. We're working with youngsters that have had their drinks spiked, and when they come on and discuss things with us, they're losing confidence and they don't want to go out. Now, I'm not a trained counsellor, so basically I'm just using my knowledge of drink spiking and talking the youngsters through which is quite a traumatic thing for them.
Yeah.
Would there be funding available for members of our organisation to be trained in counselling?
We would look at it in terms of more sort of mental health wellbeing and sort of mental health first aid in terms of the training aspect of it. Formal counselling is something that we will not fund from that. And training, unfortunately, would be part of that because it would be seen as being a formal sort of clinical intervention from that. But if you were looking in terms of techniques that you can support people with their mental health and just sort of that facilitation skills, then something like that we would look at. Basically, anything that comes in that sort of has any sniff of a sort of a clinical intervention, but unfortunately having to knock back.
You want it for lines as well?
Yeah, it's just obviously I've been quite worried about me saying something and I don't really know. I'm not a counsellor.
Yeah.
It's just someone to guide. It's just my experience that I use.
Yeah, that sort of thing that we would support in terms of you just that sort of self-help aspect of what it is you're doing. Obviously, we would want you to sort of put you into contact where if they did need that clinical intervention, then you could maybe signpost them onto other organisations that do have that specialism or that aspect going forward. But it's not something that we would fund for your organisation to go through.
Right, thanks, Peter.
Okay. Okay, I have seen that there's been quite a bit of chat and people just making network contributions throughout. So, Moira, what I'll do that as well as what I'm doing with Jane in terms of the paid work experience aspect. I'll just put that into an email out to everybody, if that's okay, just with your contact details. Yeah. Yes, so I got some. Let's cancel. Right, I have to leave. Okay. Yeah, and what was I going to say then? If nobody else has got any more questions going forward, I'll just put up my contact details. Like I said, I will be sending out the slides to everybody when we're finished here today. But contact details there. You can give us a phone, drop us an email. The VASLan website, that's where you will get the guidance notes and the application forms. There is a subsite, particularly for the Community Mental Health and Wellbeing Fund, which is vaslan.org.uk/CMHWF. Also, in terms of information being uploaded and updated on our Twitter and Facebook accounts and sort of all over social media. I did say in terms of the information that we'll be putting out there and any closing dates, if we are bombarded with applications and we have too much and maybe in terms of successful applications and the money going down, if we do have to put in a closing date further before sort of the end of April and sort of the beginning of March, we will let you know about that. I have now got all your contact details, so I will email you directly, but still please keep an eye on our newsletter and the social media feeds in terms of any information that's coming out over that. We will be able to have discussions. I know it's not ideal having a big room of this, 34 other organisations here. So if you have any projects in mind that you maybe don't want to share at an open forum, then please just drop me an email and we can have these discussions if there's any questions specific for your organisation and the projects that you're looking to do taken forward. So I'm just going to give another opportunity if there's anybody else that wants has got any questions they wish to ask or to add. I did say it would be 12 o'clock and we are 1 minute to it, so I've done well.
Can I just say, Peter, and this is a bit of advertising, it saves us getting a lot of stuff printed out. As you've just said, there's a lot of groups here today. So if they wish to visit our gardens from April onwards, once we get it all sorted out and just have a relaxing time in our gardens, just get away for the hustle and bustle of the life, they're more than welcome at the flats at VASLan, and it's a lovely garden. They can sit there and have their lunch or whatever. Thank you.
Tommy, what's the actual name of it?
It's Rosebank Tower is the address, which is the first tower across from VASLan Garden, VASLan train station, and it's behind Rosebank Tower. And the name of it is Central VASLan Community Gardens. I didn't name it. Hilda named it. She wanted to have some big, you laugh, Hilda. She wanted to have some long name, I think. We've only got a board big enough to put a name on. So it should be open from April if we get the vandalism and the beds, grow beds sorted out. And it'll be open usually from 9 in the morning till 5 at night. And then it'll be shut up again. So it should be open every day, not just during the week, every day, 7 days a week. So if anybody wants to come along, just relax. And even if you're there, have a chat. And if you want to come and talk to me about plants, I could bore the backside off you for plants and flowers and all sorts. Thank you for the meeting, folks. I will need to go. Okay.
Okay, and Tommy, if you want to just pass on your contact details once the garden's all set up and whatever, then we could probably do a follow-up from a VASLan point of view.
Good stuff
as well.
Thank you again.
Okay, thank you.